2019, 6:30 p.m. All members of the council are present with the exception of Mr. Charbonneau, who is absent this evening. Others present include James Johnson, our clerk treasurer, and Laura Dogan, our city manager. The second item on our agenda is to honor Newport City Fire Department members. And last year, we were asked by Representative firefighter James LeClaire Jr. and firefighter Ryan Abel a successful rescue of a person from a burning building.
To show that.
Firefighter Abel's second rescue of an individual from a burning building. And so they had a resolution that was read on the House floor, and the firefighters received a standing ovation from all the House members.
Look at the smiles on those guys. But that's the standing ovation. And that was a picture of Representative Page reading the resolution.
I won't read the whole resolution tonight, but we wanted to do a presentation here at the council meeting of the resolutions.
So what I'd like to do is ask the council members to come around so we can take a really nice shot. And to put James Jr. and Ryan in the center. Step back. Hey, everybody.
Oh, let's
Squish it. Oh, that was nice.
practicing.
And move it to your right. Okay.
Oh, now we have a professional.
One of those ought to be good.
Yeah. That sounds like about 100 of them. Okay.
I just want to get a copy of the photograph of the resolution.
Yes, I do. Jim, this is such a small camera. I have to back it up.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry. I barely have.
Keep reading.
You're getting the ceiling. Now you got it.
Oops.
You might have it there. There you go.
You got me smiling.
Great.
And this.
We didn't do a slide so far, did we?
Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor, when was that rescue?
September 28th.
There was,
Oak Street. Oak Street. Okay.
Sweet. Thank you.
No, our fire department, all the firemen to be commended because they're on call to answer fires no matter what the weather is. Things like that. Yeah.
I saw them out last night across the.
And we're out this morning. Sure.
I felt bad for you. I thought about bringing out some coffee, but I didn't know how long you'd be there.
Thank you for doing that. That's
You're
nice.
welcome. The next item is 2019. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? On the minutes. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. The next item is We have Ann.
Yes, just before. I did want to talk about during this process.
To all of the people,
Department heads are here. If anybody in the audience has a question in your mind, I want to do more research on. While it requires some might not have even been a camera tonight to have this video so that people would know about the budget. So I think in the future you should read a department chief is talking about their budget for the future, that we should be allowed to comment at that time when it would be relevant, and you don't have to come out of context and go find it again, but you're there at the time. It makes total sense to have us say what we're going to say at a relevant time, and we don't have to take you back and write an introduction and an intermediate part and a conclusion at this time. So I reserve my right to comment on the budget just before the vote, which is ridiculous. Unless you want me to comment now, and I'll do it.
You comment during the budget process.
Mr. Mayor. So I share much of what you just said. I also think that there should be opportunity for public comment along the way, and I made the suggestion recently to the mayor that next year we have a public comment period at the end of each meeting so that it can be relevant and timely. And hopefully we can institute that next year.
Is that going to happen? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Is that going to happen next year?
Well, it's not my decision, but hopefully we can revisit it. And I would assume people would be amenable.
But I just want to clearly state that I wanted to give the department heads the courtesy to present the budget. I have no problem with having the comment at the end of it, changing it next year to have comment at the end.
Great.
But we at least got to give our department heads the courtesy to present their budget to the council, because it is the council's budget to present to the public. So we have to give our department heads that courtesy, and that's why I did it the way I did, and it's the way it's been done for a few years. But having comment at the end of it, I see no issue with, we schedule, say, the police, and then at the end of it, you allow a public comment after that. But to interact during their presentation, I think we ought to give them the courtesy to at least present their budget, because it's the first time they're explaining it to us as council members. And so,
Mr. Mayor, I had some concerns with that, even myself as a council member, because I thought they were here to present, and then we'd have a meeting later to discuss what we had heard. And it seemed like all we did was listen to them, and there was no discussion as a group of how we actually felt about what they presented. So now we have a vote tonight, and I have some concerns about some of the items. And we've never had a time where we could even discuss those items.
If I may, I was under the impression we had question and answers throughout this process amongst the council members, and wanted to give you an opportunity to ask and send us back to research.
I think when you're presented with something and you're listening to them and you're looking at the numbers, and even though I looked at a lot of things first, you still have to have time to digest all of that. You can't digest it in a 1-hour meeting.
And you came in Friday.
I
And I
did.
invited you to come in.
And I did come in, and
Yeah.
I mentioned a few things.
Yep. And then I said, please feel free to come in. Any other questions that you might have?
And I have time constraints like everybody else.
Yep.
moving on, no one else signed up, okay? Moving on, the next item is the Better Connections grant application. Oh.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, I thought Laura, I didn't know who was gonna go.
Mike Welch, Northern Community Investment Corporation. As you know, we've been working with the city and the Newport Downtown Development Corporation on several projects, primarily associated with the promotion of the four-season outdoor recreation, which is one of the economic development strategies that has been adopted by the Downtown Development Corporation, and I think pretty much incorporated here within the city as well. There is another grant opportunity that we've been looking at for a while, working with Laura and Jessica Booth and Tracy Zhao of the Vermont Land Trust and Karen Garrity. We are working on preparing an application for that grant. This is a V-Trans Better Connections grant, so it's primarily associated with transportation improvements related to, could be almost anything. In this case, we've selected the transportation pass here in Newport and Derby as part of this application. And the application would involve, so first of all, looking at safety along the trails, both at intersections here like with Route 5 and other intersections on streets where the bike paths intersect roadways here in the city or outside of the city. Also looking at the amenities associated with the trails. As you know, the trails that are currently here, and Karen and Laura and Jess and others have done a tremendous job kind of outlining the trail system here. They're owned by, managed by different organizations. So part of this grant is kind of an overall developing common goals, perhaps common marketing strategies, signage. So to look at how best to manage the trail system over those different user groups. Looking at how increased use is going to affect the trail. So starting to promote this, promoting here in the city as a primary attraction for visitors to the area. What is increased use going to mean to the trails? And then the final component overall is a marketing strategy. So not only marketing here in the New England area and outside, but also to Canada, so that we're incorporating the Canadian trail system that the system connects to, and looking at a marketing strategy both here in the US and in Canada. So those are the three components. This is not a really large grant. The total, the maximum grant award is $67,500. It does require a 10% match. The Downtown Development Corporation has 50% of the match, and I believe Laura has identified the other 50%, which would be $3,750. So the total match is going to be $7,500. So we'd probably be looking at hiring two firms under this, an engineering firm to look at the safety issues, and a marketing firm to look at the development of the marketing strategy. And it should be pointed out that this is more than just development of a plan. It is also looking at the marketing pieces, the designing what we would need for marketing, designing what we would need for signage, perhaps come up with some consistent messaging for the trail system. So that's the proposal. It is due on January 31st, so that's the reason why we're here before the council this evening. We did present this briefly to the Planning Commission last week. The Planning Commission also had to review and approve the submission, which has and so we're here tonight asking for your authorization to submit the application. The city will be the applicant, and I believe Laura has provided you with the resolution that would be required. I do have copies of the outline summary, so that if anybody in the audience would like a copy of it, they're welcome to it. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you or members of the public may have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Questions from council members on this? Then what is your pleasure? I'd have a motion, if you so choose, to approve the application. And then we would sign this resolution.
I'll make the motion.
I saw both out of both eyes, like.
We tossed a coin in our minds.
Toss the coin, okay.
I won.
So you're making the motion to approve the
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded it, okay. Discussion on the motion. And hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, this is for a bike trail or for the hiking trail, or must be the,
I'll let
It's-
Mr. Welch answer.
It's the trail system, so it is for multiple uses. So part of it is hiking, biking, horses, part of it is snowmobile, so it's the overall trail system, so it's a 4-season use.
or federal grant, Mr. Mayor?
This is a state grant through the Vermont Agency of Transportation.
May I have a copy of the paperwork?
This is just an outline.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Do you want a copy to take with you?
I can get it from you later, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks for
for
coming up.
Thank
braving
you
the
very
elements
much.
for coming up tonight.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you so much for making the drive, Mike.
The next item is final budget review and vote. This is where the council, do you have questions?
I thought we were gonna be doing, okay. All right, so let me say some things. And one of my concerns, and it really doesn't affect me that much with this budget, but having this like automatic, give everybody 3% every year, to me is not a sustainable method of doing budgets. Now, the COLA for the average COLA for the United States this year is 3.2. So the 3 they were exactly below that, but that doesn't mean this area is 3.2. I didn't narrow it down to what this area is. That's one of my concerns. I have a concern about line items. And I went in and I talked to the city manager, and really reasonable. But one is a budget of 500, and spent about 5,600. And my question was, do you have to get authorization to overspend a line item, or is it the bottom line that we're looking at? Items, they should be held in somebody. It should just be, okay, we're going to transfer money from here to someplace else. One of my other concerns is that when we talk about wages, and we start comparing somebody's wage to another town, all right, I find that unacceptable. All right, wages have to be set locally. I don't know, I didn't check my email today. I had asked for description of the 2 new jobs that are going to be in rec. The one is being created, and because one is divesting work to another, so I could look at that.
The only job is one. You said 2 new jobs?
Well, there should be 2 new descriptions, because if you're divesting a good percentage of your work to somebody else, then that means either you're doing less work or you're picking up additional work. That concerned me. And it didn't concern me in that I think that the people aren't going to earn the money to get it. I think the person that is the head of that department has done an incredible job, probably put more time in than to get the work done that she's had to do. So I'm not really concerned about that. It's just how we look at how we set wages. I think it's important that we look at things a little different when it comes to that. And I truly believe that we should be holding line items. And I talked about when we do percentages on budgets. Right. When I was looking at earlier ones, line item that they're putting in $50,000 every year and they're spending 13. All right. This year they actually put in the 13, so for me that's good. But when you compare a proposed budget to the existing budget, which is, you don't know what the final number's gonna be. And at the end of the year, if you've got $200,000 left over, you're not getting an accurate percentage. And the other thing I was being very careful about was I went through, and I don't think any of our departments did it. Previously, I saw somewhere, it looked like they were padding a number. If you pad a number and you raise the number of the budget, and then you compare it to something, you're bringing that percentage down. So, and the other thing is that I thought we were listening to their budgets, then we'd have time to digest it and come back and talk about it, and not all of a sudden come back and, well, I digested it, and there's a few other things, but because of the way the budget is now, I'm not sure I'm gonna vote for it. I just want people to know that I can get all my concerns out in the open. And I don't think the answer is come in and see me, all right? It's the council that's supposed to make these decisions. If I don't have any feedback from other council members, and the only feedback I get is from the city manager, I don't think that's fair to me. I think I want to know what my other council members are thinking about the budget.
I'd like to address the line item issue. Ultimately, we are responsible for our budget. And I always say, if I don't go over my budget, then I've done a good job. A lot of times it may take you 2 to 3, even 5 things to jockey things around. You put the money where it's spent. So in the end, hopefully you refine your budget so that line item isn't some exorbitant amount. I don't know what the $50,000 one was, and I guess it doesn't matter, but that's how I've always operated. If we're gonna have to go get approval every time we might be $1,000 over the 500 on a line item, Public Works not only, plus the water, plus the sewer budgets, I'd be in Laura's office every day.
I'm not saying 500, it was 5,000 over the line item.
Was that in recreation?
Was it Crown Store?
I don't remember now, I didn't bring the paper with me.
But
But anyhow,
it would be nice to know. That way, like I said, you know, some years change from others depending on what projects you're working on, or, like I said, it takes some refine it so you can get it to a number that's reasonable. You might be a little under, you might be a little over. And other than capital stuff for Public Works, my budget is pretty tight.
it was in the report.
So one of the other things about budgeting is it's an educated guess. So you do the best you can for the guess, but if Tom has an emergency that's unanticipated and not budgeted for, then we have to go outside the lines. We'll record the action in the appropriate line item, but it will show that line item as overspent. So then he has to not overspend somewhere else to make up for that. What you're seeing when you see ranges, that's why we don't overspend the bottom line.
I understand that, but when you have light items and you're going to transfer funds from one line item to another, there should be some approval process. Because everybody's looking at the budget like, this is what I think it's going to be. Now, I know, like this winter, you're probably going to get hammered. You know, your salt or your sand or...
So should I not overspend my winter maintenance budget, or should I?
No, you have to. What I'm saying is that there has to be an approval process
So
to go significantly beyond.
I guess I would disagree with that, because again, if I overspend my winter maintenance budget come spring, I'm conservative. If something happens, I'm trying to have no overtime, trying to make that up somewhere else. But I'm putting it where it was spent.
Are you referring to approval from the manager or from the council?
No, from the city manager.
Oh, okay, I wanted
So
to
what makes you
clarify.
think
'cause
that I don't?
would be-
I mean, what gives you the impression that we're not speaking to each other and we're not?
I
putting a
don't know that
strategy?
you are, right? You know,
We meet as department
I
heads
understand.
after every council meeting, which we never used to do. So when it becomes budget issues come spring, that's a hot topic. And I'm sure after this spring, I will be having issues. I guarantee it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
some of those, I just say, some of those budget line items are a 2-year deal. You may budget 1 year for half of it and not spend a penny.
Yeah.
But the second year, you're gonna spend over what you budgeted that year. You can combine the two, and that may be part of it.
I also want to mention,
And I don't believe the charter specifically says line item overspend. I think it refers to the total expenditures of the budget. I just read that today. I'm sure that's what it says.
so the other piece to point out is in the recreation budget in particular, and I'm assuming that the example that you're talking about where it's $5,600 in one line item and nothing was shown, but it's shown in other line items, I'm assuming that was in the recreation budget because Jess, having control over her budget for the first time, she's doing a lot of cleanup. So if there is a large line item, I'm looking at Prouty Beach miscellaneous, which the actual was $5,500, and she's budgeted. She has funds budgeted elsewhere. Jess, you're going to have to tell me where.
I think what you're looking at too, just remember we closed up all of the budget tabs, so all you're seeing is actual across the top. So that is the line that only 500 was budgeted for, but it showed 5,000 spent out of it, and that was the line where we said, hey, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. We need to start figuring out what this miscellaneous stuff is and creating their own categories so that we can be tracking that a little bit more efficiently. So that's what we're working on doing this year. But that certainly does look a little funky if you don't know the ins and outs of it.
Becky, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about Dan mentioned the 3% pay increases every year. I think the council needs to remember that the council negotiates 2 contracts, one with Public Works and one with PD. If the council negotiates a 3%, 4%, 10% pay increase, your department heads have no control over that.
No, I understand that.
And on top of that, if they're going to get 3%, the admin people and the department heads should get 3% too, because we all do the same work. So that's not so much of a control item that these department heads have control over. The council has control over that.
I think we've answered all of the questions, at least on my list. Is there anything else that's outstanding that you want to mention? As far as the job description, Jess, do you have that handy?
Take one and pass it around. So that's for the recreation coordinator position. We actually did discuss this afternoon that maybe it may be a wise choice to, if this goes forward, to look at my job description as well and take a look at how that's being affected.
What I was looking for is to see how yours changed if you were picking up other duties.
We actually were discussing that this morning, that many of the items on my job description are irrelevant and there's quite a bit missing from what I actually do. So it would be good, I think, if things move forward to take a look at that, yeah.
One of the things that Jess is doing that hasn't been done before is participating in leadership roles that are influencing our community in new ways, such as the Garden Park restoration. She's working on leadership teams filing grants, and that is something that has not been emphasized as much as it is now, particularly with the grant opportunities through the RCDI grant and expanding our capacity in that area. So this position is designed to support her ability to be able to move that forward. And as you said, you've noticed that she's taken on some policy writing and some advocacy towards the policies such as the events policy. And that takes a lot of work. So those are concrete examples of how that department head position is changing. It's more than just facilities maintenance and supervision. keeping your finger on the pulse and cooperating with all the other department heads and the city manager and the city council to move in the directions that we're directed by the council. As an example, there was an emphasis on programs, and in 2016, 2017, the emphasis was changed to facilities maintenance. And I think that was a good move. I think the quality of our facilities is still in the process of improvement. I think we have a ways to go. But again, that was a timely direction for the council to take.
Yes.
If I could just lend some perspective to the police department budget, your question is actually a great question. I take for granted the fact that I know this inside and out, but someone looking from the outside in might not understand. And I know that if you look at my numbers, a lot of times, like, I'll budget a certain number, and then, like, for example, this year, right now, I'm running it, we're just over 50% way through the fiscal year. I'm running at 170% of my overtime budget. So, I
think the one I mentioned, it was 13,000, budgeted 50, 13.
yeah.
That's, you had dropped that to the 13, it was the regular, what you were spending.
Do you remember which one it was?
No.
I don't. I just picked one of the ones off the list real quick. It's a smaller example, but for training for the administration, which essentially is me right now, I budgeted 1,000 years in 17-18, but I only spent $50. Well, the reason for that is because if you go down to the line item that says what the patrol guys are spending on, I budgeted 13,000 but spent almost 16. So right there, I know, and what I try to do is I try to pull apples to apples. So when I know I'm over in their training budget, I try to take it from my training budget or the dispatcher's training budget to try and keep everything equal. I had one other example I wanted to give you real quick. It was...
I wish I could find that example.
Oh, it was outside services, which is a big one. So I budgeted $505. Oh, sorry. Yeah, excuse me. I budgeted $5,000 and I spent $13,958 in 1 year. Those are all attorneys. I have no idea what's going to come in for public records requests or lawsuits or what have you. I guess I'm just trying to lend a little credence to what Tom's saying. Like, I can't speak on behalf of DPW, but for the police department, like Laura said, I mean, it's an educated guess. I try to get the closest I can based on previous years, but who knows what's going to happen in that particular calendar year.
You never know.
So, yeah. I think from the department's head perspective, I think we take it for granted because every Tuesday morning after a council meeting, we all meet and basically the boss will say, hey, why, Seth, why are you at 170% 6 months through acceptable? And then I explain, this is how we got to this point.
And she always says, make note in your miscellaneous financial notes.
But yeah, so we have to, she does hold us accountable to the bottom line, but you're absolutely right. There may be multiple years in a row where you see X number budgeted and it's either way overspent or way underspent based on what else is going on throughout the budget process.
A really good example of that, not to pick on Tom, but is your winter maintenance. And last year, I think it was last year, when you cannot predict every single winter. In November of this year, you picked snow twice in 1 month. The month of November, which was unprecedented. Was December calmer than November?
Yes, very much so.
And then you're going to be picking snow tonight.
Correct.
So I just want to go to your winter maintenance budget.
See, in the years of budgets that I'm familiar with, as long as the bottom line, we didn't go over the bottom line. That's the way the previous manager always approached the council, as long as the budget was approved, and as long as the department head didn't go over the bottom line. But if they were heading towards going over the bottom line in their budget, they had to freeze their budget and find cuts.
Yeah.
That's the way it's been working for I could be wrong, but is that
It's been
correct?
that way for years and years. They get towards the end of the year and they're overspent for free that they can't spend
Yeah.
anymore.
We have
I
not,
don't see a problem moving stuff around within the department. It might be a problem moving from one department to another, but
I don't believe we've
see
overspent.
moving
since
around
I've been
within
here.
the department is a problem at all. I
I
don't
think
think
you
the
moved-
auditors think it is
And the
either.
1 year, one time they did move from one department to another, they came to the council on that aspect. If I remember right. We were robbing one department to pay another.
Yeah, that, I think you gotta have approval.
It came from the council.
Moving within the department, I don't think you gotta-
Right.
Yeah.
But within their own budget, we pretty much let them, as long as they didn't overspend the bottom line, I think that's how the previous manager too operated, was as long as you don't overspend your bottom line.
Normally, in a normal year, the budgets are froze about
So
the first of June.
So in a way, that answers my question.
Okay.
Is it a line item or is it the bottom line? So what you're saying is it's the bottom line.
Yeah,
And I think that's what the chart refers to then. I just run across that today looking for something else. And I don't think it mentions anything about the line item. I think it's.
I mean, we go line by
expenditures.
line just to
If you're
see.
overexpending the budget, then you gotta give approval.
Right, but we go the line by line and look at the line by line and say, well, I don't like that item, you should. And that's why we look at it that way in the budget, but if the budget's approved by the council and then the voters, it's the bottom line for that department. As far as the way I've been, in all the years I've been here, that's the way it's always been.
So council has provided a copy of the budget once a month, and our department heads go through the budget constantly. I mean, we always have to be monitoring where we are, and we might have to adjust in midstream, but if you have to adjust, you have to adjust. So we're not looking to do wrong things. I mean, we are ethical when it comes to spending the taxpayer dollars, and that's why we're audited on an annual basis, and we learn from each audit. Try to incorporate our learning and get deeper into the understanding and the knowledge.
Other questions from council members? Council members first.
I guess I'd like to comment about Dan's concerns about 3% raises and sustainability of that. I certainly understand that point of view, but philosophically I feel that it's really important to be an employer that provides a quality environment and predictable salary increases, and that greatly affects morale. And something I recently learned is that our city manager is an expert in Willis classification, which is deciding what pay grade to put a certain position in the job. And so I feel really confident that people enter into city employment at an appropriate level. And sustainability, making sure that people have the opportunity to move ahead and have good retention. And I think we do have really good retention and provide a quality environment for people to work in. And I don't think we should artificially try to depress wages. Just this is the Northeast Kingdom. Trying to shoot for equity around the state, I think, is a way better way to go than to keep us all underpaid.
Can I make a comment on Julie's point? I've commented on this many years in the past. This has come up many times today. And the way I look at it, you got 40-plus employees here, and you're negotiating wages for 30 of them or more. If they negotiate away an annual increase of 3.5% or 4%, I don't think you can carry the budget on the backs of 9 or 10 people and reducing them. You give 30 people 1% more and you reduce 10 people by 1%, I don't think that's fair. Now, on the other hand, if you negotiate an annual wage of 2.5%, well, I don't think that the non-certified people are going to have a problem with the 2.5% increase, but I don't think you can try to make up the difference on the backs of 9 or 10 people.
And I never said that. I said overall 3% for everybody within the
Well,
city. So I personally believe you have to really look at the world in a real sense of how much your wage is going up everywhere. You know, what is the COLA? If the COLA is 2.2, right? Should we be given more? I don't necessarily believe in that. What I believe is if you've got an exceptional employee you can give them more. You don't have to limit them to that 2%. You know, I used to work for a company where I was in a union and we all got the same percentage, but most years, the good employees got merit raises on top of their percentage. Because they were either doing more or they came to work every day and didn't sleep or whatever. But it was two-tier. It was the percentage and it was the merit increase from being a good employee. But I'm not looking at taking all the people that are non-union and saying, well, we gave the union people a lot of money and we got none for anybody else. That don't make any sense at all, you know?
Well,
That
to
would
me,
be
if you're
really-
holding the line at 3%, the only people that held at 3% are the non-union people, because you're negotiating for everybody else.
Right.
So to me, that means none of the non-certified, you don't hold. You're holding at 3%.
No, I agree with that. If you're gonna give all your union 30 people a certain raise, other than 10 should get the same.
Okay, I just the point I'm making.
Comments on the budget from council members, from anyone? Then I'll let Ann ask a question.
Yeah, I actually didn't get a chance to talk about any parts of the budget, but one thing that strikes me, well, there are a couple, but two things I really wanted to talk about. And one is dispatch. It's my understanding that, first of all, I don't hear anybody talking about where we can cut. And in the old days, I would say 5 years ago, old city manager, old city council, everybody nickel and dimed the budget. You know, they said, you know, why can't that be, you know, $300 less? Why we have no nickel and diming going on at all. Nobody's talking about where to cut. So I want to talk about dispatch. It's my understanding you intend to hire 2 more dispatchers this year? 1 more dispatcher? 1 more dispatcher. Okay. That's, as far as I'm concerned.
Ask the questions here, don't ask the department head.
Well, I needed to verify a piece of information. I never
You
get
ask
to.
up here, please. and
Okay.
then, well,
Okay.
the department manager
So,
will answer.
1 more dispatcher. And I want to take us back, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They closed the Derby Line Dispatch Center, and the state took it over, and of course it was moved to Williston. And every other little town around here got covered by the Williston Dispatch. And the amount, what happens is, I pay income tax, and everybody else here pays income tax every year, goes to the state, and now the state pays Williston to give us dispatch. But Newport says, no, we don't want your dispatch in Williston. We want our own dispatchers. So my income tax that I pay the state is going to support everybody else's, every other town around's dispatch, because they get it through Williston. But it's not going, not a penny of my income tax or anybody else's income tax in Newport is going to support Newport's dispatch. Then on top of that, because we got, I think, free dispatch equipment, we decided we had to then get free equipment. Let's put in employees. And I think we're up to, are we up to 3 employees that do dispatch now? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just guessing, because it's really hard from this budget sometimes to figure out how much, but let's say that's $60,000 times 3, if you include the benefits, and I may be low, I may be high, but let's say that. And now we're talking about another $60,000, $240,000 that the citizens of Newport, who are already paying for dispatch through Williston, for all the other little towns, but not ours, we're going to pay another, we pay $240,000 a year, and we're going to go up from 180 to, let's say, 240 next year for more dispatch. And you may say, as it was said a while ago, that, oh, well, all these towns and other services are going to jump on board with Newport, and we're going to have that money taken. These other towns are going to jump on board, get Newport to do the dispatch, give up the quote, free service that they're getting from Williston, that their citizens are actually paying for because their citizens pay income tax, state income tax. They're going to give us $10,000 a year, and it hasn't happened, really. I mean, yeah, the Newport ambulance that we pay for has gone on, but we pay that $10,000 because we paid for the Newport ambulance. And maybe 1 or 2 towns have come on, and we've heard, oh, but if we had just another dispatcher, and maybe if we had it 24/7, they'd all come on. But they're not dumb in Lowell. They say, we've got it. It's, you know, maybe it's not as great as it would be if the Newport dispatchers did it, but we've got it. They do a moderately okay job. With time, they really learn where Mrs. Smith up the hill lives, and they know how to get her in case there's a 911 emergency call. And they say, should we make our citizens pay not only how much they're paying in income tax, state income tax, but another $10,000 a year to get Newport's dispatch?
Okay, could I let the chief address
Well, let
some
me
of those?
finish. Well, you know, this is my first time. Let me just finish.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to let him at least answer some of your questions.
No,
Are
he
you
can
taking-
answer. He can
You're
answer
taking
them at
notes?
the end.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure. No, I'm gonna let you
And
finish.
when I looked at the budget, you hoped that hiring another dispatch person might give you another $20,000 a year in income revenue. That must mean maybe two more towns might want to sign on. But how does $20,000 pay for the $120 for $60,000 that you're using in a new dispatcher? I mean, no business would run this way. No business would say, oh, we got free equipment, let's get four employees and pay them income and hope that somebody else, some other town is going to pay for it when that other town gets the service for free. It's really bad business. And now you're going to throw more money after, good money after bad as far as I'm concerned. And you may say, oh, well, the service is better in Newport. They really know where Mrs. Smith lives without thinking about it too much. But, you know, we live in Newport and Lowell and these little towns. And if we chose, we could live in Boston where the police station was next door and the hospital was down the street. But we choose to live, or we were born on the farm up there, and we understand that maybe if the 911 call out of Williston gets confused a little bit and they get there 1 minute late, we take that risk. And we extra money that you're paying through the nose, that we're paying, the citizens of Newport are paying through the nose for service. We understand as citizens that it might take an extra minute to get to me because I live in Newport and not in Boston, Massachusetts. Or I live in Lowell and not in downtown Newport. So I think you're wasting money. And in addition, you know, I'm not the kind of person, because I'm concerned about employees too. I would say, you know, don't fire the other 3 right now and leave the dispatch room empty and worthless. But tell the employees this is not a job that's going to grow. And as they leave their positions, don't hire new ones. Let Williston, let the state pay for this. We are already paying the state to do it. Send them information on where Mrs. Smith lives or how difficult it is to get to X, Y, and Z. And Newport City is the easiest city to map. It is not hard to find streets in Newport. It may be difficult in Lowell or Westfield or Holland, but not here. We are wasting money. We've wasted it for a number of years. We were watching for all these cities to come on, but they're not stupid, and they haven't. And now you've seen the trend. Get out. Don't waste more money on dispatch. That's one.
Well, I'd like to let the police chief answer.
Okay, I'd like to come back and say a few other things, though, about other things, other subjects, to do with the budget.
Okay.
Okay.
But I'm going to let the chief answer first before you go on. The fire chief might have something to say too.
the Newport taxpayers are paying twice. I don't disagree with that at all. The problem is that this is a legislative that requires legislative leadership. And as we've discussed multiple times before, the Newport City Council or the Newport City Police Chief is not going to be able to solve this problem until a legislator steps up and proposes some type of action to occur throughout the entire state. So this year I budgeted, or I anticipated a revenue of, oops, wrong page, 1 second. I anticipated a revenue of $20,000 in income. We're going to make $50,000 at minimum. In terms of Derby closing in 2015 and us trying to, recapitalize and build our dispatch, that's exactly what we're doing. In the year 1993, the city of Newport had 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week. It's now the year 2019, and we're still trying to get back to the numbers that we had in 1993. In terms of us laying dispatchers off and then not refilling those positions, the Vermont State Police refuses to take on additional assignments or customers. So for example, if one of our customers today said, we don't like the service that Newport is providing, and they went to Vermont State Police and said, you will start dispatching for us tomorrow, the line that the Vermont State Police has drawn currently is, we will not dispatch you. They have no choice, which means we have no choice. But again, this is a legislative problem. And we, as the Vermont Association of Chiefs of Police, have asked for the last 4 years for someone to step up and come up with some type of policy for the state. Predicament. It's a statewide problem. In terms of how many more dispatch agencies are we going to, I've said this on the record and off the record, and I'll say it again tonight. I have no idea. It is pure speculation on my part and a verbal, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing at this particular emergency service agency as to who may or may not come on. I have zero control over that. All I can do is put forward the best product possible and recognize that I am competing with free. $10,000 versus free is a huge discrepancy. But I don't know if you want me, if you'd like me to lower the rate even below that to try and entice more agencies to come on, I don't have a problem doing that. I'm just trying to do what I think is equitable and fair. And what we told all of these emergency service agencies when we came out is, there are 26 of you in this county. Newport's dispatch costs approximately $260,000 a year, which means it's $10,000 per agency. Newport Ambulance is currently paying us $30,000 a year because they continue to take on more agencies' coverage areas. That's an additional $20,000 in income that I did not, $30,000 in income that I had not anticipated this year. So I hope that answers all your questions. Sure, if I hit them all.
Well, did you not just say to me, though, that basically if Lowell was stupid enough to come on and give you the $10,000, so bad in Williston, and we didn't have to pay $10,000, it couldn't go back.
That's correct.
So once one of those communities makes the decision to come on with us, it's an additional deterrent that they can't go back to the old system. They're stuck paying $10,000 to us for the rest of the time.
And yet we already have 5.
Well, you had 5 probably before that rule came in. You had some of it before the rule came into effect.
The Vermont State Police has been saying, since they closed the Williston Dispatch, the Derby Dispatch Center,
Okay.
we are not taking on additional agencies.
And the
we
ones you
have
got,
no interest in dispatching for some of the agencies that we already do.
the only ones you got were basically the emergency services and one town. Did you even get one town to come on?
We don't contract by town, we contract by emergency service provider.
Okay. So you will have $50,000 and you will spend $240,000 or $260,000 on the dispatch center this year.
I will
We'll
spend,
go negative 2010 $210,000.
But Chief, can I interject one thing? We already have to dispatch our own police. We can't give up our own dispatch to the state police, so we have to dispatch our own
Well,
department.
yeah, and so on top of that, we're also dispatching our own fire department, which covers 2 different towns. So it's mildly more complicated than that, but I understand what you're trying to say.
And you don't do 24/7. Williston does some of it for us right now.
Correct.
So if you go to 24/7, which you could do maybe possibly by having this other dispatcher, then you can't go backwards. Williston will never do it for us again for free. You will be stuck with this other, this extra $60,000.
Sure, if you want to look at it as providing emergency services as being stuck. But the
No.
problem is...
It's being done by somebody else.
And the problem is we're not a business, we're a service provider. We're not a money-making entity. That's not what we're designed to do. We are designed to provide emergency services for the public. And all people want is when their loved one is having an emergency, that the appropriate personnel respond in a timely manner to that. If these other towns around us decide you can do that better than VSP Williston, we're more than willing to take them on.
Yes, but you would charge them $10,000 for a service that's being done at least moderately well. All of these other towns are assuming that this service that they're getting out of Williston is being done moderately well under the circumstances, and many towns across Vermont are getting it done that way.
That's enough of that discussion, because it's going in circles. I can see it's going back in circles. The fire chief wanted to say something, and then Ms. Pettis wanted to say something.
Well, as somebody that gets dispatched, that's how we go to our calls. I will say that a minute is a long time. When we get dispatched, we're at the station, at the station, on scene, anywhere in the city in under 6 minutes. Now, we do get dispatched by Williston, and it's not moderately good. We talked about, James and Ryan's second rescue. That call in Coventry when Ryan did that rescue. Originally, they turned out the ambulance spray, pulling golf structure fire with somebody still inside. Then they turned out Newport town. Then they turned out us. So you look at the time frame plus what we have to travel to Coventry. The mayor was part of a bunch of emails that we had with dispatch on issues that we were having, and just to let you know that we still rely on Newport as our primary, because we get it, Monday through Saturday. But once Saturday at 3 o'clock, we may get dispatched, we may not. We may get dispatched to go to some other town. We have to get on the radio and say, hey, that we don't cover that town. It's so and so. Newport town's been dispatched to Farron Street several times, to where the PD comes on the radio and says, hey, that's Newport City. That's all time consuming. That if it's somebody's house and they're stuck on the second floor, that limits our time on how soon we can get there to rescue them. It's a huge issue for us, because last weekend Orleans was having issues with their radios. Talking to the state police, they dispatched us to test the radios when they should have been testing Orleans. And we're constantly calling them saying, hey, we can't hear you. Oh, it's going to be on your end. They don't want to dispatch for fire departments. We had a community meeting, or a county meeting, with the Commissioner of Public Safety, Division of Fire Safety, EMS, and if they could find a sensitive, way to get rid of everybody and have them do their own dispatching, they would. But they just don't want to say, here, we're done with you. They can't come up with a good pay schedule, because if they do, it's going to be more than the 10,000, because they're going to do it by per capita, and I can't remember what it was for the city of Newport, because of our call volume. It was going to be a lot more than $10,000. Now, if I'm out on a weekend at a call and I need to get a hold of DPW, the state police are going to call DPW. Where if they're dispatching in Newport, I can just go on the radio and say, hey, can you give DPW a call? We need signage, or we need sand. All that stuff matters. And time is of the essence.
I hear you, but then you're saying that all these other towns that are letting the state do it from Williston are negligent, or are they just being
I'm not gonna say
reasonable?
I'm not saying they're negligent. I'm saying, my personal opinion, talking to other chiefs throughout our communities, I'm saying that right now, because we don't have 24/7, they're not gonna jump on board.
Board, they're stuck with us forever.
And I think that's a good choice on their part, honestly. I deal with dispatch on a regular basis, and I'm telling you, if they come to Newport, if we can get 24/7, they're not gonna be sorry. You know, they're gonna get good. Okay, and Williston does it, their turnaround on their employees for dispatchers is crazy, because it's a stressful job. I wouldn't do it. And they're getting minimum pay, where they can go to McDonald's with less stress than working dispatch. So their turnaround is ridiculous as far as their employees for dispatching. It's a thankless, stressful job. So I think, personally, we're crazy if we don't go 24/7. Because
Okay, I want to let some other people. Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, just for my own clarification and understanding, as a municipality, department and police department, we are obligated to the expenditure of the dispatch service. Is that correct? As we stand right now, we are obligated to that expenditure. So, okay. So regardless of whether anyone else comes on or off, we are still obligated to the expenditure of having a dispatch service.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thanks, just want to make sure.
I'm with James on that. Let Derby go, and it's very sad since they're gone, because Williston is not Derby, and it's not, and we missed the 24/7 here. We called, I don't know, a month or two ago, it was an emergency, we thought. She had no idea we were talking about. It was moved. So, I have the 24/7.
So I just had two other points. I mean, if I had been allowed to contribute along the way, I would have had things to say about everything, but I know there's a limit to how much you can deal with in one night. So, you know, you realize that the budget that you're proposing for the police is almost $1.8 million of your $3,900,000 total budget, just averaging out. It's almost half. I mean, you're spending half of your entire budget on the police. Thing that I wanted to mention is when I looked at, and I know apples, it can be apples and oranges, when I looked at St. Johnsbury's budget for dispatch plus police, it was less than our budget. And they have 3,000 more people. We saying that we only have 4,200 when I look at Google, and St. Johnsbury has 7,200 people, and they have a budget for police and dispatch that's less than. The other thing I wanted to comment on is the concept that you are giving us back, the public, $200,000, which is, in my mind, baloney. When I get a fraction of the $200,000 in my pocket, I know money back from last year. But what happened instead was that $200,000 got incorporated into this new budget so that it doesn't look like the budget increase is, you know, whatever it is. But $200,000 of the city's or the public's money that was supposedly back in grant money or whatever, didn't go back to the public. That would have meant that we had a budget that was less than last year's. But no, it went into the new budget. So, you know, you complimented yourself, or the city manager complimented back to us. No money came back to the citizens of Newport. I would know. I would have had a check for $5. I didn't get it.
you like to address that?
I don't compliment myself, Anna. So let's just ignore. When we went through the audit process, we discovered that we had billed the taxpayers for the DUI, I'm sorry, Seth, it was Stone Garden and the SIU. We also drew down grants that we were not certain that we were going to get. Once we got the grants, that equated to a double payment. And when the auditor worked with us on that, we're going to do it again this year. We're going to do the bookwork the exact same way. We're working with our auditor. Our auditor has endorsed the way that we're budgeting this, and he said each year, as long as you are drawing grants, you will end up having funds to return to the taxpayer. In order to do that, we're not going to cut a check to you for $5. We're going to offset the budget. That is the most logical way to return funds to the taxpayers. And I'm going to, Jim, is there anything that you would offer in
No,
this?
that's not an uncommon thing. We offset the budget to offset the tax rate many times with surplus money we had at the end of the year. That's not uncommon. Did the same thing last year.
And in this budget, you've used those funds, or some of the funds, to do projects that we knew we were going to have to budget for in the future. And so you've used it to offset those future budget costs by doing the project.
Right.
And so that is where, and to raise additional tax money to do those projects, the extra surplus funds we use to do those projects. Am I correct? And is that the right logic there?
Yes.
And that's what I understood.
Yes.
But don't insult us by saying that the money is being returned to us. It wasn't. It was just absorbed into the next budget.
So
I'm quite willing for you to say that, but don't tell me you gave it back to me because I didn't get it.
though that expression was actually used by the auditor. So I would hitch my star to the auditor's wagon before I hitched it to yours, no offense.
Nate, may I ask?
And then I, sorry.
Informational, that's all, and I'll
If I can
ask
just
after.
point something out, I think maybe it'll help. Can you go to the income for the police? And you know, as I said before, we're not a business, we're not a money-making entity. That's not what we do. And I don't, if you could just complimenting myself at all. I budgeted $29,450 in income. That was what I was guaranteeing the taxpayers the police department was going to provide. What we actually brought in was $270,267.81. Again, not, and just being a service provider, to me, that's Seth DeSanto and Travis Bingham and Charles Moulton going way above and beyond what it is that is expected of us. This is a ton of time, work, effort, and paperwork. But, and what I'm trying to get you to see right here is that this line right here is what I can tell you for sure is going to happen. This is what is going to happen, which I hope it does. That number is going to be somewhere around this again. But I can't guarantee the taxpayers that that's going to happen because I have no idea if the federal government's going to come back and say, yeah, we'll give you X amount of dollars in this grant or that grant, because I just don't know. But that money ends up, I know you don't like the terminology, I understand that, because you're not seeing the actual cash, but if we didn't do what we're doing, the tax rate would not be 2-cent increase, it would be a proposed increase of, I have no idea how much, 5, 6, 7, 8 cents.
Right. I mean, because that's in reality what it is. Because we, for instance, we paid for your vests ahead of time that maybe that you got grant money back for. So when you get the grant money back, you show that there. But we never get the money back. The citizens never get the money back that paid for your grant, your vests.
You are correct in saying that you're not getting the money back in a cash check, but you're getting it offset in your tax rate. Well,
because the tax rate would have been higher, but for the fact that you got to pay for it.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
Which is an advantage.
Which means
Nobody's hiding
that,
that.
which means that your budget is,
It's
not
high.
your budget, but the budget is too high. Because not only did, it really went up 8 cents as you suggest.
Yep.
But it looks like it only went up 2 cents because the grant money came back to pay for it.
Right, but the money coming out of the taxpayer pocket is only 2 cents. You're not
No,
paying 8 cents.
But the money came out to begin with for the vests at the last budget. We paid for it at the last budget.
Jim, this is the amount to be raised by taxes. Can you see it from there? Can you see it from there?
Yeah, I
And
can,
just put my,
it's blurry, but I can see it.
That's the amount to be raised by taxes based on the formula that we're using. This is the amount of the grand list, which is last year's actual.
that's one thing we're doing too in this budget. We're not estimating. We're using the actual grand list, because in a lot of the past budgets, based upon an estimated grand list, and this time we're using an actual grand list, which is the 319, right?
Well, we're basing the budget on 319 million.
Right.
When I get around to set the tax rate, it may be more than that, maybe less than that.
Right, because the grand list could always get out.
The grand list changes.
We could have a huge fire that
This is
wipes
what
out a
you're
bunch
basing
of
it on.
buildings too.
That's correct.
Oh, Robin, I'm. I got it.
And this might be for Jim or, the school districts have to have a vote to allocate surplus money annually, so that, you know, if they want to apply some to offset the tax rate and some to cover expenses or whatever, or projects, but are municipalities required to do that?
We did that
You did that in a
November.
meeting
In November. Let me just unplug this for a second. I'm gonna, yeah, that sheet's on the inside of the budget. And is it dated? I'm just gonna pull it up.
11.5.
This board approved, I'm just gonna pull up a worksheet, so bear with me just a second. Restricted, committed, and assigned fund balance. Here it is. There we go, that should come right back up. This is the amount that the council approved surplus for future budget offset. These are the amounts that the council approved that coincide with statute for our Public Works Department, these amounts. This amount, the 32.4, is put into a sinking fund for dispatch, maintenance and repair. This is the amount of unassigned that the council approved for us to be able to utilize. The council does not want that to go, I think it's below 400,000. So between that number and that number, I'm gonna this, council has approved 375,000 to be used to offset this.
But what I was asking was, the voters don't have to approve that, they just vote on the budget, the amount to raise in taxes for the budget, however you present it.
Correct.
So, and that's not a requirement, okay, that's all I want to know,
Oh.
thank you.
But, you know, the city would like to have a contingency fund. I mean, we're not gonna build up to millions of,
No, I'm not,
we will lower the tax rate. You remember that you got in trouble for hoarding $500,000 that nobody knew about? Well, we wound up having to give that all back.
yeah, because they had allocated it somewhere, or the voters didn't approve it, so.
All these funds listed are something that have been committed to something already from previous years that haven't been done.
Yeah.
Or assigned to another project that hasn't been done yet. We're just taking the money out of the unassigned portion to lower the tax. Both of those funds are already committed to something.
And then the auditor recommended 1% to keep as a reserve fund in case you have
Yeah.
a disaster.
Yeah.
I forget what the percent, there's a
It's
percent,
about-
it's a
about-
formula he used.
Yeah, about 10%. It comes out to about 10%. So with a budget nearing 4 million, my goal is to keep that hovering around 400,000.
Grab money out of it, spend nilly-willy. That's all restricted for other uses or committed to other uses that have not been done.
By the council.
Correct.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you.
Other questions from council members regarding the budget? Anybody? Any comments on the budget? So we're looking at, my mouse there. So we're looking at that increase based upon the current grand list. Well, you just had your mouse, Laura,
Right here.
that right there?
Yep.
You see that, yeah. And that's based upon the $390 million grand list.
Yes.
Have you, in the years of setting the tax rate, have you ever had huge drops?
It fluctuates, but it's not millions of dollars. I suspect that grand list would be around 320 million.
Right. Okay. No.
It's based on years past.
The one thing with the budget too, where set budgets doesn't budget for the grant money like we used to in the past. And that's the difference too. And that's more accurate when you're budgeting revenues, you're budgeting like, because you never know what you're gonna get in grant money in that aspect.
I think last year, that 315 million, I think Becky may agree with me or disagree on that. I think the grand list when we set the tax rate was actually more than that.
Was, I think.
Close to the 390, the 319, I think.
15 last year and it was 319 when it came in.
About 319 somewhere.
That was after all the tax appeals.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with all that, and
At the 3,958,000, is that what we're gonna raise by tax?
Yes. Amount to be raised by taxes. This amount,
Barring any changes.
right.
And may I ask, informational only, what goes on the ballot? Is it the amount to be raised by taxes? Is that the question that you asked, not the budget
Yes.
number? Okay, thank you.
questions from anyone? Yes.
I just have one comment. That budget of that amount of money that you're gonna raise from the taxpayers is up from what it was 3 years ago by almost $1 million. About 3 years ago, we had a budget of 3.1 million that you asked the taxpayers to pay. Now you're asking us to pay $1 million more than we paid 3 years ago.
Anything else from anyone?
Well, I'm trying to remember back in, but I think that huge jump was because of the fact that for years, the city council had not increased the budget, or increased it very little for years. And to hold the line, and eventually that catches up to you when everything, the cost of everything escalates. And I think that was part of the problem back then. We caught up 3 years ago to where we should have been over the course of 10 years, let's say, instead of all in one whack.
Well, that was
And I think that's what.
That was when you were nickel and diming the
I
budget,
don't
and
nickel
now
and
we're
dime
not
it.
doing anything to it.
All I do is write the checks, I don't.
I know. I didn't mean you.
So I think that was the reason for the increase.
Anything else from council members? Then, does anyone want to approve the budget this evening? What's the drop dead date that you have to have it for the annual report?
That's an interesting question. I'm still waiting for school budget to come in because I haven't heard a word from them. I emailed them Friday, still haven't heard anything.
It's gotta go to the printer the first week of February in order to meet the deadline to be out 2 weeks
Right.
before
So
town
we're gonna
meeting.
have to have a special meeting here somewhere along time to approve that, to approve the warning, because I can't approve it without the school numbers.
We can't approve the warning until we approve the budget.
That's correct. But by the 1st of February, you wanna have everything done. Because I've got to warn that thing by February 1st. It's got to be warned and done by February 1st.
And some of us need a little time to put it in the book, since I do the book.
So you've
That's
got,
next week.
Yeah, it is next
so
week.
you've got about 10 days.
Book.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept the budget as presented.
So a motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, may I hear, may I hear the actual increase? Is that the, yeah, may I hear the actual increase? The percentage?
Oh,
That's the 1.76?
1.76%.
Okay. That's what I was asking. Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
okay. And if you divide it out, it's a,
$69,000 increase.
right, or a .0221 cent increase.
Right, so if it's a $69,000 increase?
69,536.
536.
69.
Right there, you see it highlighted in blue up there.
Over.
You see it, see where it's in blue?
Oh, yeah.
The box
69
around it?
69,536 over the current year.
Yes.
And Chris, this is on our website.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. New business, Mr. Johnson.
No.
No, I don't have it.
No? Mine's kinda new old. Wasn't quite sure how to approach it, so I wanted the council to discuss it. Let me get to my emails here. Okay, this was an email I received from Joseph Gresser from the Chronicle. It said, "Hello, Mr. Mayor, hello, Mayor Manette. The other day I was in Newport Natural and noticed a pair of petitions on the counter. When I went back today, they were gone. One called for the water treatment facility to leachate from any source. The other, if approved by the voters, would put the city back on record opposing the Coventry Landfill Act 250 permit. It occurred to me to wonder whether such ballot items can bind the council and force it to take action specified in the article. Ms. Dogan told me you have researched the question over the years and might have an answer for me. Best, Joseph Gresser." So then I responded by saying, "Hello, Joseph. I believe they can only be an advisory from past votes and petitions presented at both the statewide and local levels. I believe this is due to how we are governed and ruled by the state at the local level. We do not, we all know we do not have home rule. With that being said, I'm going to check with VLCT to make sure I am correct. One thing I am certain is that they will need at least 5% of valid Newport City voter signatures to be placed on the ballot. I recently took a peek at the petition in Newport Natural while getting lunch, and many were not Newport City voters. That was just a side note. I will be in touch." So I contacted the League of Cities. I just want to read everything to everybody so that everybody knows what I did. Okay, I sent it to Abby Friedman. She's with the Municipal Center, or whatever, the league. I put, "Hello, Abby. I was asked by the press if the voters can overrule a city council decision by petition and a ballot measure. And I've been on this currently a petition circulating which directs the city of Newport and council to stop taking leachate, and so on and so forth. The second was to oppose a landfill. And I put, I was under the impression that under Vermont law, ballot items like these are only advisory and not binding. Am I correct?" So then she forwarded my message. This all started because Joe asked a question. And I wasn't sure of the exact answer. So I was doing my homework. So then I got this response from the league. came from Susan Senning, who is a staff attorney at the Municipal Assistance Center. She put, "Hi Paul, Abby forwarded me your email as I am the attorney staffing the inquiry service today. Vermont courts have repeatedly found that a municipality is under no obligation to warn a vote which is requested by a voter-backed petition if the petition is for a matter that is not within the province of the town meeting to grant or refuse through its vote. Raritan Taxpayers versus Wassermandorf, 268 point whatever, legalese numbers, 1969. That case and its litany stand for the general principle that a municipality, select board, or council can treat it as advisory and non-binding, or can deny any petition calling for an article to be placed before the voters if the Vermont legislature has not conferred upon the voters the right to vote on the particular issue it raises. Vermont Supreme Court has stated that a select board or council cannot be compelled to present a petitioned article if it does not set forth a clear right which is within the province of the town, wait a minute, I lose my place. Within the province of the town meeting to grant or refuse through its vote. Cliff versus City of South Burlington, 2007, quoting the Wassermandorf case. You can find a recent VO Supreme Court upheld this position online here. Since the law are not subject to voter control, a petition on the matter does not force the council to warn an article at town meeting. Of course, the council can choose to warn an advisory article on the subject, but should proceed cautiously since the voters will have serious by the result of the labeled as non-binding. I reviewed your charter and nothing seems to affect my answer on this topic. You should review the terms, though, to ensure the charter does not provide any for any referendums or voter approval that is not contained in statute. I hope this helps. So then they also, she didn't put it in the email, but speaking of contact, they always say you should always contact your city attorney. So I had a conference call, Mr. Johnson, the manager, and myself had a conference call. And basically, we received a rather lengthy response from the city attorney. I don't know if I should read this whole thing or how I should do it.
Make it available.
I'll make it available. But basically it's
all the legalese stuff, you know.
It's all the legalese stuff. But basically the bottom line question was, are these binding petitions? And they're not. And that, I mean, I can give this to everybody. This is made public to everybody. It all started with Joe asking a simple question, and then I'm not quite finished yet. Okay. I asked him the question, and so I knew Vermont's not California, so it's not a referendum. I knew that for a fact, but I wanted to just verify everything. One of the questions, I think that one of the questions is almost going to be after the fact, in a way, because the once asked the city to oppose the expansion of the landfill, which tomorrow's their permit hearing. So, I mean, if they vote in March, and they might already have it, I don't know, that's speculation, I have no idea. The other one, when it comes to the treatment of leachate, the city council actually, per state statute, do you have that number, Laura, in his memo? I forgot to highlight it. Per state statute, the city council is the water and sewer commission for the city. And there's plenty of law that, what's my train of thought? What was I going to say? I guess there's plenty of law that says that they're non-binding, and bring this to the council to see what the council's wishes and feelings are, because it all started with a simple question from the press, and I just wanted to follow through because I didn't know all the exact answers. So
I think what you were looking for is in the last full paragraph that said, there is no authority in the statutes that allows the voters to determine what type or amount of waste will be treated by a municipal sewage treatment system. They cite 1988. Instead, the City Council has broad authority and control over the sewage disposal system, including to determine sewage system capacity and how much, if any, can safely be contracted away. Furthermore, the arrangement with Coventry Landfill or any other landfill the city might contract with is clearly within the authority of the City Council. I think what you were looking for was 24 VSA 3611.
Section 3611, and then Handy versus City of Rutland. There's a bunch of cases there.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to bring this to the council because I didn't want to, you know, I just was trying to get a simple answer, what I thought was a simple answer to Joe Dresser's question.
You know, there's no simple answer. How many people signed the petition? Did you check the petitions for the quantity?
About 260 on each one. I mean, there were a few that weren't any good, but that's the good side.
Around 260 on each one. Now, it says we can present those as non-binding. So I think at a minimum, we have to have a vote on whether we're going to put them on as non-binding or not put them on at all. And not just leave it to these letters. I think the council has to vote on
But
it.
that's why I brought it here. That's why I wanted to make sure I brought it to the council. And it wasn't up to me. I don't want to take that. I wanted the council to decide that. No, I didn't want that on me. I wanted to be fair and have, you know.
And when we talk about, it's the council's decision. The council works for the citizens of the city. They don't work for themselves. So you can say it's up to the council, but we do work for the citizens. We don't work for ourselves. So when we make a decision, our decision should be based on our citizens and not how we feel. So I would make a motion that we present both as non-binding articles.
A motion's been made. Is there a second to that? There is no second. Oh, I mean, a motion been made and no second. Okay.
I have just an informational question. I'm sorry, but I don't mean to interrupt. And,
I saw both.
it's okay.
You know, for years, we have heard from you, and I understand that it's true, that if I wanted to put a petition together, and get 260 signatures that said there should be peace on earth, you would say back to me, well, you might have gotten all those signatures, but it's not an issue for this council to decide whether or not there should be peace on earth, so therefore we're not going to put that on the ballot. But with respect to the leachate and with respect to you already had approved to send to the commission and then reverse yourselves. You clearly said that the leachate issue and the other issue were city council, city business, and then the petitions come out with regard to those very issues, and we get not the 160 signatures, but the 260. And it seems to me that this is, if you already voted one way on it and then you voted the other way on it, it is surely city business, and it will be highly offensive to this community if you decide not to put those on the ballot as non-binding. You can ignore them afterwards if the majority of the citizenry who vote say that they don't want you to take leachate. It's true. That's what all of that said. You can ignore them. It's non-binding. But you cannot refuse to put them on the ballot when you voted one way and the other as city business on those issues. And maybe you should postpone the vote and let Kevin vote on it as well.
Yeah, my question, Mr. Mayor, is there two different petitions then, the two different, so was the motion about both petitions, them both on the ballot? I just wanted to make sure it.
Yeah, it's both articles.
Yeah, for both, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was one of the people who collected signatures. 3 city council members signed those petitions. Not because they necessarily agreed with the questions, but because they thought it was right that citizens should have a voice in this process. And I find it disturbing that you're revisiting this and denying that right.
I brought this up because I wanted I didn't feel comfortable. This is not for me to decide. This was a question from the press. I asked the authorities, League of Cities in town, their opinion. I asked the city attorney because I didn't want to answer Joe Gresser wrong. And so this is what we got in response.
And it's
this is full transparency right here.
I get it.
I'm trying to say this, but back to the Lychee vote. The original motion on that Lychee was until it was deemed safe. And then they came with the evidence, and the council, the way it went, they felt it was safe. And based upon that, the science and safe, it was a split decision.
You have sought many opinions, and that's good. Why shouldn't we, the citizens of Newport, have a right to express our opinion and have a vote based on that? It's non-binding. But it's always worth getting
I don't know if
the
people
opinion.
do understand that, because I watched a video program where the person being interviewed basically said, get out and vote, you can force the city to stop taking Lychee. And so that information is out there too, that people think they're binding when
Well,
they're not binding.
they might think that, and they might not, but that doesn't mean you get to be paternalistic and prevent that.
Well, I'm not
That
the one.
sort of feels
I'm not the one. I
demeaning.
don't second motions. I'm not the one to second motions. I, as chair, generally don't make any motions. I don't second motions. A little editorial note about the petition. I did have a couple people come to me who were upset about the way they were approached to sign the petition, because they refused to sign the petition and then they were flat out accused of supporting polluters. I mean, yeah, I had two people complain to me about that, saying they thought that was a rather aggressive technique for getting signatures, saying, well, if you don't sign it, you support pollution. And it's their right not to sign the
I have
petition,
no
but when they're...
idea who asked that question.
Well,
but
all I know is came to me, two different people were very concerned that they were almost like being strong-armed in signing a petition.
Dennis, did you feel strong-armed when I asked you to sign it?
No.
Thank you.
Well, that's just maybe not him, but I just had two people. I'm not saying that's whatever. I just wanted to let that be known for the record too, that some people felt they were being twisted because the one individual flat out said that because they didn't sign it, they were just the way the person approached him. And so, but a motion was made and there was no second. And so
Any other new business?
we need to move on.
Does this mean it's going on the ballot?
No, I don't think you can, I think you have to have a vote to deny putting them on. I don't think you can just...
Well, there was no second to your motion.
No, I made a motion to put them on. I didn't make a motion not to put them on.
Well, no, but they didn't second your motion to put it on.
Right.
So that means it doesn't go on.
I understand that.
You can't
So
vote.
I will make
You
a
can't
second.
vote if there's no second.
Okay, I'll make a second motion that we vote on not putting the articles on. I don't want the articles on there.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion been made and seconded not to put them on. Any discussion on that motion? Then all those in favor of not putting them on the ballot, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm torn. Can you repeat the motion?
The motion was made not to put
Not put it
the,
on. And I understand both sides, and you have some excellent points. And maybe I am feeling more paternalistic than is necessary, but I feel like putting such a technical, huge issue in one sentence as a yay or nay, even though it's non-binding, just, I don't feel that people are, the majority of voters are going to be prepared to answer that question with any. So I'm torn.
Wow.
Excuse me, let her finish. Please stop interrupting.
And I really don't appreciate the tactics that Dump has used, and I don't really want to support anything that they do with their bullying and nastiness. They've been very offensive, and I appreciate their organization and their passion, but I'm just not in favor of their tactics. And I feel like this is a tactic that can be used as some kind of strong-arming technique if there's a successful campaign to have a majority of voters say no leaching, and it's non-binding. It's just, there's no winning. So if it's not too late, I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. Thanks for letting me talk through that.
That's yes for no.
Yes, that's yes for no.
So 2 in favor, yours a no. So it's 2 to 1.
Dan voted no, 2 people voted yes, not to put them on.
In good
I need to
faith.
know, because I gotta add them to the warning.
And
Thank you very much.
so you need me to vote on that? Because you need a 3 to 1? Do you need me to 3 to 2? No, I
You
don't need
gotta
to
have
vote.
3 affirmative votes.
No, he voted no.
I know. You gotta have 3 affirmative votes.
So I have to vote.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to clear out. I have to vote on that.
Yes, you do.
After all that, I'm just trying to get it correctly. I'm gonna vote yes. But I feel there's enough case law also.
In good faith, the citizens of Newport put together a petition. In good faith. Organize, put a petition together, get the signatures, hand it in at the appropriate time, that they will at least be heard. You have just proved that that isn't true, and that is incredibly sad. And frankly, I think you should be ashamed of yourselves. You are elected as representatives of the people. You have just told the people they don't count.
I think what they did was they accepted their authority as being water and sewer commissioners. And I think what they just did was very brave. And what they did was they just preserved their right.
If I didn't vote, it would have been no too. If I didn't vote, it would have been no, and it wouldn't have gone on anyway. So I had to vote either yay or nay, and if I voted nay with you, it still wouldn't have gone on. So I was like in the middle. If I didn't vote, if I voted with Dan, it wouldn't have gone on. If I voted with them, it would. So I was like, either way, how I voted, it would have, you know.
This is incredibly sad message you've just given the citizens of Newport. It doesn't matter whether you agree with the issue or not. You have totally blown off 260 voters. Just blown them off.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
And you
I'm
would
doing what I
too,
feel is
Julie,
right.
if it was the other way around. This is not supporting
Okay, it's enough. It's enough.
transparency in citizens. It's not.
Mr.
very
Mayor, is there a
disappointing.
copy of the petition that had been going around so that I can see the exact wording?
I've got cover sheets of it.
I mean, those aren't yours, those are copies,
There's
right?
copies, yeah.
Okay, perfect, thank you, Mr. Jones.
I brought them specifically for that purpose if we want to see it.
Thank you. And these are mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other new business? Do you have anything?
Nothing yet.
Old business?
Yeah. So, as I said before, we're gonna have to have a special meeting somewhere along the line here, as soon as we get the number from the school for their budget figure. So, when I get it, I'll let Laura know, and she'll call everybody, say, we've got to have this meeting. It's gotta be sometime between now and February 1st. So as soon as I get it, I'd like to have it the day after I get it, or somewhere in the day or two, so I can get that warning.
We got
Printed and put up.
24 hours to warn a special meeting. Yep.
Because that book has to be at the printer, I would say by
First week in February.
the first week, probably by the Wednesday, which is February 6th, minimum. So, but I need time to format things and because Don wants it a certain way, the book.
Yeah, and I've got to have that warning published and posted by February 1st.
Right, and that book's gonna be out, what, 2 weeks before the annual meeting?
Well, it'd be nice if it was.
Minimum, well, no, but I think there's statute for that too, isn't there? Okay. All right, any other old business,
No.
Mr. Johnson? Any old business? I don't have any. Any old business?
Yes, I'd like to thank Tom for getting the light at the intersection of I-1 and Causeway working again. We'll see what happens when people try to close that access road. Thank you.
The access road? Oh, I went to the red light there.
I did.
I admit it. And all of a sudden I realized the light was working. I go, I think the light was working. You did this. I was so used
Not only
to
that, I stopped.
having it flashing. I said that for the chief. Sorry, chief, but it's true.
Dennis, it's obvious that you live and work on the other side of town.
I was coming
I
down
hate
to
that
I was going to Vista.
I want to thank Mr. Bernier too, because the sidewalk plow came through today and it had the snow blower on it, so I didn't have a big pile to clean up.
No, I want to commend Tom for the storm too. They did a good job. As it came down,
Don't look at me, I wasn't out there with the guys, so.
but I thought they did a good job considering how hard it was snowing and blowing, and it was not pleasant. And
They'll be, hopefully everybody's out of here and off Main Street by 9 o'clock, because they'll be out here pulling snow out, so try to avoid Main Street.
okay, all right. Any other old business?
Mr. Mayor, just real quick, because I haven't covered council for a couple of years until I since we started. Does the school board still come and present their budget, or do they just?
The elementary board is supposed to come first meeting in February. They request to be on the agenda.
But you have to approve it, you have to approve the budget?
No, we don't approve their budget. They just come as a courtesy. They've been doing it for years, because technically, per the charter, they're still part of the city, but.
That's correct. But they have
so
their own board.
They have their own board and all that, but they come and present. They've been doing that for as long as I've been here, to just present their budget. Not the high school, but just the elementary.
So what's the purpose of having the special meeting?
To approve the warning.
Oh, approve the warning,
The warning.
gotcha.
We have to approve the warning.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, because he's got to have all the exact numbers, and he also has to have from the elementary school, if they by chance have any special articles. And you don't have any of that yet either?
No.
Okay. All right.
Call again tomorrow.
We'll call again tomorrow. Yeah, because we need that for the annual report too. All right, the next regular council meeting will be Monday, February 4th, 2019, 6:30 p.m. And now we need an executive session for discussion of a contract, 1 VSA 313A1.
Two-motion meeting?
That's a two-motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we